Hello everyone and welcome back to another World of Tanks console video. My name is Xenozat and today we'll be looking at the Tier 7 Chinese Premium Light Tank, the Type 62 Dragon. As you can clearly see, the background is still of the monster tanks and the Dragon sporting its new awakening mode. And if you remember from my October overview at the beginning of the month, I basically talked about this tank because it pretty much resembles the Type 59G, and the more I looked into it, the Type 59 and the Type 62, the Type 62 is just a smaller down version of the Type 59, but they copied it and made it better because it's a smaller version of the Type 59G with that nice dragon turret there and the dragon along the side. Now, I love the aesthetic of this tank, but as per usual, we're going to get on started over to the tank comparison sheet. So, the Type 62 Dragon has its Tier 7 counterpart in the tech tree, the WZ-131 Tier 7 light tank. At least I believe it's a Tier 7 light tank. Anyway, moving on, the firepower stat of the Dragon is 29, beating out the WZ-131 with 20, and that is because of the reload and rate of fire. However, the caliber of the gun compared to the WZ on console has the option to run a 100mm versus the Type 62's 85mm, and we'll pretty much I feel like this is supposed to be reversed, and we'll go over that when we go over penetration and damage. But base reload on the Type 62 Dragon is 5.5 seconds, beating out 8.6, and 10.91 rate of fire, beating out 6.9. Now, here's my biggest complaint about the Type 62, and that is the penetration on its standard rounds. On a standard 85mm gun, it gets 145 base penetration on the AP rounds, 220 on the APCRs, and 43 on HE. And that's my biggest complaint, because stacking it up against most tier 7, 8, 9, and 10, as it does not get preferential matchmaking, the 85mm just feels lackluster. It's not that you can't penetrate a lot of tanks, it's just you need to get into certain positions to be able to do so, and that's quite hard. However, the WZ-131 has a better penetration with 181 on its AP rounds, 241, and you know what? I cannot remember if that's APCR or a heat rounds on its premium. Let's go with APCR. That seems more. That seems better because of the velocity, and 50 on the HE rounds. So the standard penetration on the Dragon is 180 on its AP and APCR, and 300 on its HE. But again, HE is if you can penetrate. However, the 131 clearly beats this out because 250 with its 100mm on its standard and premium round, with 330 on the HE rounds. Overall, the 131's gun, because it's 100mm, ends up beating out the Dragon fairly easy. 170 on the AP round, that's silver, 4,800 silver for its premium round, and 130 for its HE round. Well, 252 on its AP round, 4,400 on its APCR, and 252 silver on its HE rounds. And again, shell velocity pretty much even across the board, 793 meters a second for its 85mm. Loses out quite significantly to the 131's 920 meters a second on its AP rounds, 1,150 on its APCR, and 920 on its HE rounds. However, you have a little bit more on ammo capacity in the Dragon, which is at 47 versus the 43 that the 131 gets. But again, you're dealing at 85 85 millimeter caliber gun versus the 100 mil, you'll do more damage regardless. And with the 100 millimeter, the DPM on this one, I don't believe I calculated it. That's why it's 0, and I don't remember why. But regardless, the damage on the 100 mil will add up far more than the 85 millimeter. So aim time 2.3 on the Dragon beats out the 2.7 on the 131. 0.37 dispersion beats out the 0.38 just slightly. However, everything else on the Dragon and the 131 is roughly similar. 20 degrees of gun elevation, 5 degrees of gun depression, 54 degrees of hull traverse speed, and 48 degrees of hull turret traverse speed. And my whole thing with Chinese tanks, and the reason I don't like driving them personally, is they don't have that much gun depression. And from the replay, you'll pretty much notice that right off the right about, I think it's about midway through. Chinese tanks in general, I just feel really uncomfortable with because I can't get the gun pointing where I want it to, and I need that gun depression, but more on that later. So, mobility stat, the 131 gets 47, and that's because of its 520 engine horsepower with a 26.07 horsepower to ton, beating out the mobility stat of the Dragon, which is 40, because the engine power is only 430 with a 20.48 horsepower to ton. The fire chance in both tanks is 12%. Keep that in mind if you decide to run any of the premium consumables and swapping out the fire extinguisher. The top forward speed is 60 on both tanks, and the top reverse speed is 23 as well. And both tanks are actually even with ground resistance. 0.5 on hard, 0.6 on medium, and 1.3 on the soft terrain. Scrolling down, we're going to go over to the survivability stat, and they're both 22. These tanks are really stacking up well just because they seem so similar. But the hit points on the 131 does beat out the Dragon by what is that, 20 hit points, being 900 to the Dragon 880. Overall armor thickness is 12 millimeters to 45 millimeters on the Dragon, but that only beats it out because of 12 millimeters starting point versus the 10 millimeters to 45 that the 131 gets. However, they're both equal in armor, as the hull armor on the front of both tanks is 35, on the sides of the hull is 20, and on the rear is also 20. On the turret armor is 45 for both tanks, on these sides is 30, and on the turret is 20 millimeters. So where that extra 2 millimeters of armor comes in, I could not notice as far as where the armor thickness differentiates. Concealment stat, 66, and that beats out the WZ-131 because of the 0.32 when stationary and 0.32 when moving concealment stat. The compared to the 0.28 when moving and 0.28 when stationary on the WZ-131. This spotting stat is 84 on the Dragon and 78 on the WZ-131, and that is because you get a base view range of 390 on this tier 7 light tank versus the 380 that you get on the tier 7 Chinese WZ-131. They both have similar radios with 600 meters of radio range. Now in tank cost, we have 6,460 gold for the base Type 62 Dragon, but of course, again, Wargaming never sells it when there's bundles by itself. You normally have to purchase a little bit extra with it. But you can opt out and go for the 1,350,000 for the WZ-131 if you so choose. But again, what you always focus on when you buy a premium tank is what the premium bonuses are. And premium bonus in silver is 40% for the Dragon, and in XP it is 25%. This is a tier 7 light tank, so you do have a little bit of profitability when it comes to silver. But again, it's a Chinese Chinese tank. It's just your other option besides the T-34-3, the Type 59, and I think the only other light tank that I know of is the Type 64 Chinese, and that's a tier 6. So tier 7 light tank is probably a good addition to any collector for the Chinese tanks. But that's as far as the comparison goes. You'll notice that this tank is very similar to its tier 7 counterpart. The only main difference being is that the gun that the 131 gets when fully upgraded is the 100mm, whereas you can opt out for the same 85mm that on the 131 that the Type 62 gets, and you'd pretty much have the exact same tank. However, as that differentiates, you'll just have to point out how good this tank can be when you put it in the right situation by watching a gameplay. So we're going to be starting on an assault map in, I don't remember the name of this map, forgive me. But as per usual, the common disclaimer of this will be the overlays and, oh, Siegfried line, there you go. The overlays from um, Twitch, that is again, apologies, can't really do much when it comes to OBS splitting those apart, so uh, other than that, everything else is good as far as the gameplay goes. So, taking an aggressive location right away. Unfortunately, I also forgot to mention you will hear background talking, and that is because, again, I was actually talking through this live stream. But hopefully, it doesn't distract you too much. And I forgot that overlay was there. Is the volume up for this? Ah, that's fine. So I tried to take an aggressive position in the beginning, but unfortunately kind of screwed up because our team decided to stay towards the center, didn't really disperse too much, and the enemy pushed in from that side. So I tried getting out of that position as quickly as possible, get back into the center tower with the safety of the team, and try to take a different spot and location that I can do. And there goes the meme explosion that normally happens, or emoji one. This is what happens when the Streamlabs actually catches up with, or not Streamlabs, Stream Elements that I use actually catches up with the stream, and it normally does that meme explosion. So it's kind of fun to watch, but didn't skip over anything. Just a little filler there, kind of adding a little bit of flavor to the gameplay. So I'm gonna try to take an aggressive position into the back. 131 spotted me, and he puts a good shot into me right about here. Yep. And this is the part where you can clearly see that 5 degrees of gun depression on Chinese tanks that I so commonly hate becomes more apparent. I can't even bring it. I can bring most tanks into this location. Have fairly good luck in getting the gun face down. Unfortunately for this light tank being Chinese, it just doesn't even know. So I'm gonna try to take a quick spot at the 131 and miss. That just felt a little bit soft-hearted there. Didn't even. It was kind of like a soft lob for him. That's what it was. So you can clearly see our team is doing a little bit decent, managing to keep up, but that changes in the quick of a pace if you're paying attention to the map. Our our friendlies are still stuck in the middle, and the enemy team decide to make their push, taking advantage of the weakness in that gap over there on D6, and they start making a good aggressive push. So one thing you'll notice over here is that I'm not trying to take any quick risks. Trying to stretch out that 880 hit points. Did I get a shot on the 131? And I forgot to take notice of the opening path on the other side there on F7. And I didn't want to take any risks, but the T29 was there. I figured if I fired at anyone there, he would have a clear shot at me. But then I noticed he's by himself. I'm in a dragon. I'm about to go feast. One thing is always key when you're driving a light tank and you see some big, dumb, stupid heavy tank all by himself. Every light tank driver knows that's a feast awaiting, and this potato of a player decided Even in my tier 7 heavy tank, light tank can penetrate. American's gonna get killed. He didn't notice. He didn't notice. That bounced off, and he finally noticed. There are even players like this at tier 7. Matter of fact, there's players like this at tier 10, so I can't really say much either. But T29, to his best ability, he's by himself. I'm just doing work with the dragon, and I don't know what that shot was, but I took advantage of it and took out a tier 7 heavy tank by myself. So, our team is a little bit behind here, but I get a clean shot into the side, takes it, 188 damage, the VK 3001, can't even spot me. Fired in between the bush, he never had a chance of spotting me there. And the enemy team finally made it over to the center of town, or the flag, and are starting to cap. Our team is trying its best. We gotta put up a fight, trying to catch back up in this game. Before I forget. So, it looks like our team's gonna be losing. I decide, you know what, we're gonna be losing. I'll just go back, trying to take a risk. There's mostly tier 8s there. I can't do a lot against 145 against all these heavier armored tanks. And as soon as I say that, a shot manages to go in the right spot on the Gornish and take him out. But they're all heavily armored. Unless you're getting the sides of these tanks with this, with this 85 millimeter, you will have severe lack of penetration, so to speak, if you're trying to aim down the front of that. But IS-6, T-26E4, right there in that position, and I decide to take out the T-26E4 more than focusing the IS-6, and that is because that thing is a lot more harder to take out because some people still don't know the weaknesses of it. But it looks like our guys did and finally managed to clear a shot out. So the IS-6 by himself, Yak Tiger 88 got him in the side. I decided to track him, and the Yak Tiger 88 finishes him off. So we finally made a comeback. Now we just gotta hunt down the last heavy tank. I prefer mine matched. Is exactly what he got. Making side jokes, having fun on the stream. So figured I haven't seen him in a while. Might as well go and scroll down the fields. You know, some people like staggering out on the outside when they know they're by themselves, even though it's supposed to be them attacking, us defending. And I spot him right over here. This M6 unfortunately was AFK for the remainder of the battle. Either that or he clearly gave up, as he was like, I'm not gonna compete with that. And so I just farmed the damage off of him. One of the guys I thought might have had a chance to get a top gun, the tank destroyer, and when I saw he only had 4 kills, I decided I want my 4th kill as well, so I finished off the enemy. 4 enemies destroyed, 18 pens. That's good. Thank you for the follow, man. I get a notification for the follow, but I don't see the follow until like a while after. So 2,750 damage, 1,075 assists, 6 enemies detected, 4 enemies destroyed, 18 pens. 114,876 silver with 1,829 base experience. With a double, it was 6,036. 2,750 damage was 300 more damage than anybody else on my team, which isn't a lot, but when you're using an 85 millimeter, that actually stacks up pretty good. Just going through the efficiency tab, and yay for a potato. The T29, the T29. If you don't know what a potato is in this game, fair warning, you probably are one. And it's just a joke, by the way. Don't write hateful comments for that one. So overall, the Dragon Type 62. What are my thoughts on it? It's pretty fun. I like it. However, my main complaint with this is it's a Chinese. The gun depression of 5. I'm not a friend. I'm not a fan of the gun depression for Chinese tanks. The 85 millimeter cannon or gun on this is just not. It's not stackable for a tier 7, especially that one that gets normal tier 7 light tank matchmaking. Being able to see tier 8s, 9s, and 10s, you will have a lot of trouble penetrating, and this you will have to step into the normal roles of a light tank and just get assisted damage or make sneakier plays. That's the best recommendation I can do for you. Or be like most people and just load the premium on that. That's fairly common with low penetration standard rounds. They just load the gold and fire away. As long as you're hitting every shot, you penetrate. However, I must warn you, if you do decide to do that, the silver will not stack up well for you, and you will just have um, another situation is with the Type 59 currently with the low penetration 80. What is that? I believe it's an 88. No, I don't remember exactly what's on the Type 59. Apologies. But other than that, aesthetically, I love the way this tank looks in the Halloween game mode. It was a little bit fun to drive around, seeing all those purple dragons everywhere. Um, but again, these are all personal opinions of mine. You have your own. You can leave some comments down below. Tell me what you think of the tank. If you like the video, please leave a like. All that nice stuff everybody always says. Subscribe for more, and I'll catch you guys next time. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a good night.